When I moved to New York over a year ago, I thought I'd be prepared for what it would cost. But literally within one day of my being here, 2/3 of what was supposed to last me for 3 months was gone. Suddenly, I was living in one of the most expensive cities in the world with no money and no job.
I'm doing a 24-hour challenge, get a job and a place to live in New York City.
The funny thing is that solving the money would be the easy part. It's what came next that surprised me and cost the most. I knew going in that moving to New York would be expensive. People were talking about the higher rents and the overall cost of living, but I'm an artist, and it was my dream to live in New York City. So I called on my friend and I tried to figure out how much I would need to survive for a few months if I had no job. Dating life, too expensive and time consuming. So while I'd miss having someone to hold at night, I figured there'd be a few thousand people in New York, so I wasn't too worried about that.
There are 8 million people in this city. Half of them are women, over 20,
keep it legal.
under 40.
Keep it sexy.
Now it's a million.
These are the women.
Gross.
Weed and other vices, forget about it. Forget about it. In April of 2025, I drove across the country with my friend.
A journey across the country from California to New York. Sacramento is there. Do you know how to get to the 5 North from here?
No.
How did this happen? The biggest hole in America. The rest up here, we're sleeping with the truckers tonight. Yes! Shout out to the woman who let us use the showers for free. Waffle House. That is not good.
Arriving in New York City on April 30th with the idea of starting May fresh in New York.
I want this so bad, and I'm just very excited. This is very cool.
I had about $6,000 in my bank account with the idea that this would last me for about 3 months. But by the end of April 30th, I was down to $2,000. The first day I got here, I planned to check out a few places, all shitty and small.
This would be the size of the room here. Apartment number 2. Ghetto. Cool place. Kind of a mess though, low-key.
But no one wanted to rent to somebody with no job. So I found my favorite one.
That place was super cool. It is the cheapest place. I walked in, it smelled delicious. And I was like, yo, you cooking something, bro? That smells delicious. And he's like, I actually be brewing tea. And I was like, you're brewing tea? Ooh.
And then I offered to pay the guy 4 months up front. $4,000 gone from my $6,000 in one day. This was a very scary moment for me. You see, before moving to New York, I had a pretty comfortable life in California. After graduating from college, I got a job as a trainer in these studios that provided one-on-one training to the types of clients that sit on the board of Intel and manufacture rocket parts for NASA. Pretty quickly, I was not just a manager of my studio, but of another studio down in San Diego. So I was making pretty good money. Not only was I making good money, I was going to the beach after work every day and just chilling in the sun. I thought to myself, this is a pretty great life. I could easily do this for the rest of my life and retire. While I realized that I could do that, I tried to imagine myself in 50 years. Would I have been satisfied with the life of just stacking my bread and living on the beach? Maybe, but I think I wanted a little bit more than that. I realized I would regret it if I didn't take a chance on this artist dream of mine, and where better than New York? Going from making that kind of money in California to making nothing in New York made me nervous, but I knew this going in. Everybody knows this going in. The cost of following your dreams often requires this big financial leap that everyone besides you thinks it's dumb. But there was another cost that I hadn't even considered before, one that no one had mentioned before, one that was much harder than the money. But at this point, I had no money to my name. I couldn't afford to think of what was going to come next, so I focused on solving the money. It was time to get to work. For the next few months, I lived basically gig to gig. I had opportunities to get safer jobs. I could have worked in a restaurant or a coffee shop like I had before. In fact, on my first day here, I actually got a job working in a camera store, but I turned it down because
they're like, well, while we want people to do side projects and enjoy their life and stuff, we really want someone that's committed here and wants to make a career here. I kind of thought to myself, well, that's not really what I want. I came here to fulfill my dream of being a photographer in New York, not to be a camera gear salesman. If I come here and I do something that I don't want to do, I may as well have just stayed in California.
A few days after rejecting that offer, I was sitting in this coffee shop with my friend trying to figure out how I could make money. He suggested that I look into Craigslist and the gigs there. After days of sitting in this shop and reaching out to Craigslist gigs and all of them rejecting me, eventually one of them actually accepted my offer. It was just a few hours of shooting photos for this rapper in Brooklyn. I made about $500, which is below the industry standard and much below what I charge now. But at the time, I was living on cloud nine, man. The dream was possible. I had moved to the city and I had gotten paid to take photos. It felt fun. So I did more of these gigs, making more money and having more fun, but I was barely getting by. I wasn't saving or investing anything. And as somebody that would like to eventually retire and buy a property, have a family and whatnot, this was not a comfortable feeling for me. In fact, I was living so cheaply at the time that I lost about 10 pounds in 3 weeks. I sent a picture of this to my mom and she started getting really worried. Every phone call that I had with my grandma, she's like, Ian, make sure you're getting enough sleep. You sound really tired. But it's impossible to not be tired and hustle in New York City at the same time. You see, living in New York, people always talk about the rent, the cost of an Uber, the expensive and usually what I've found to be shitty quality groceries. But no one talks about how it feels, about the cost to your mental and emotional energy. Before I moved here, I thought I was doing pretty well. I was 23, running 2 studios, managing a team of 10 people that were at least a decade older than me each. But then I got to New York and I felt way below average. It's like being the smartest kid in high school and then going to Stanford, which I wasn't the smartest kid in high school. I didn't go to Stanford. In fact, they rejected me, so I don't know how that would feel, but I imagine that's what it feels like. One day I'm at a bodega and I bump into someone that makes music videos for A$AP Rocky. Another day I'm at the park and I hear these fintech bros talking about the startups that they just sold. Here I am, hustling constantly, living the dream, but I'm barely getting by. I constantly felt like I was behind, but strangely enough, that's what made New York City so attractive to me. When you surround yourself with these people doing awesome things, you realize I could do that too. For months, I thought that making money was the hardest part of New York. I was dead wrong. I actually had this pretty awesome moment last summer where my photos were accepted into 2 galleries in New York at the same time. One of them was literally my favorite gallery in the city. I'm looking more excited for this than my own graduation. I've been waiting for this moment for a long time.
I'm downtown right now. I'm about to go to my second exhibition gallery showing.
A bunch of my friends came. There's a party afterwards. A lot of my photography friends were asking me, how did you do it? I was like, I'm that guy. When I was walking home at night by myself, I was struck by this emptiness. Why should I be feeling that if I'm supposedly living the dream that I moved here for? I thought back to the training job that I had in California, the service that I was providing to these people, and I realized that in my quest to fulfill my artistic dreams, I had left behind what felt so gratifying in California. So I looked into assistant roles and I eventually landed a job as a caretaker for this older man with dementia on the Upper West Side. At first, it was only 10 hours a week at $20 an hour. Nothing crazy. But soon they wanted me to work some more hours. And then they wanted me to work some more hours. Soon I was working 40 hours and I knew that they paid the company $40 and the company paid me $20. So I figured, why don't we just cut out the middleman and you pay me $30 cash? Suddenly, I had something that I had been missing for months now in New York. And that was the stability of a paycheck. And sure, you'll be like, Ian, didn't you move to New York and say, screw the stability of a paycheck, screw the security, I'm gonna chase my dreams? Yes, but I figured there must be a way to do both at the same time. So that's what I did. I kept doing my freelance jobs on the side, slowly making more and more per job, and I'm now working 55 hours a week for this old man on the Upper West Side. I'm making more money from this caretaker job than I was making in California. I'm also fulfilling my artistic dream. When people ask what it costs to move to New York, they're usually asking about money. In fact, you probably clicked on this video asking the same thing. And as I've learned, you'll definitely need more than you think. Like, try doubling what you think. But after living here for a year and making it work financially, I realized that the money is not the hardest part. The real cost is giving up the life that already works. The uncertainty, the stress, the loneliness that comes with all of that. Remember how I said, oh, I'll just move to New York and I'll find a new girl to date there. There have been a few women here and there, but nothing has stuck because I just don't have the time. I just don't have the time. Would I have more money if I stayed in California? Maybe. Would I have fewer eye bags and a better tan? 100%. But when I'm trying to make a decision about what I'm going to do, I try to look forward to older Ian, to 35, 40, 50, 60-year-old Unc Ian and think, what would he say? I think he'd say to take the chance. Whew, I'm sweating, boy. It's hot as fuck out here. Shout out Manhattan Bridge for being my background. This is what I was sitting on, by the way. Bum, 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 bum. Midtown type shit.